In this video, we're going to look at the PS Session Explorer inside PowerShell Pro Tools for Visual Studio Code. The Session Explorer lets you connect to and disconnect from sessions that are currently active in your PowerShell process. It also allows you to pin sessions to individual tabs, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So first of all, let's create a new session. I'm going to use new PS Session to create a new Windows PowerShell session. So what this is going to do is start a PowerShell.exe process in the background and then connect that session locally. So now you can see that I have session ID 2 here available, and it's open on my localhost machine. So now I could use something like enter PS session 2 to enter that session, and now you can see I'm running PowerShell version 5.1. If I were to use exit PS session, I'll leave that and I'm back in my standard PowerShell 7 PowerShell extension terminal here. On the left hand side, inside the PowerShell Pro Tools activity pane, you'll see that we have this sessions list here. To refresh the current set of sessions, just click the refresh button and it's actually going to bring up that current session. From there, you can use things like enter PS session to quickly enter in and out of sessions. This could be handy if you have a lot of different sessions open to remote machines. And you could also remove the session, which will effectively disconnect the session. So I'm going to exit this PS session, and go back to my local PowerShell session. So when I click run here, you're going to see that PS version table is output from my PowerShell 7.ps1 file. There may be an instance where you're working in multiple versions of PowerShell or across multiple machines, and you may want to connect to a session when you switch to a particular tab. So we can do this with the pin session functionality of PowerShell Pro Tools. So I'm going to switch over to my WinPS tab here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control-Shift-P to open up the command palette, and then you can search for pin PS session. So pin PS session will allow you to select from one of the sessions that's currently available. So I'm going to select this session that I have, and I'm going to pin that to my WinPS tab here. So now you can see I'm again in my WinPS session. So if I were to run this, you can see it runs as PowerShell 5.1, and pretty much effectively my VS Code is now running PowerShell 5.1. You can check certain things like that are only available inside PowerShell 7 versus Windows PowerShell, that kind of thing. If I were to switch back over to PS7 here, you're going to see that it automatically transitions from Windows PowerShell back to PowerShell 7. So now if I run this script again, I'm back in PowerShell 7. So this is kind of like a real easy way to switch back and forth between PowerShell versions, remote machines, or that kind of thing. So it just pins the session to that tab. You can do the opposite and unpin a session by using the unpin session command. So then it will no longer switch back and forth between Windows PowerShell and PowerShell 7. So in this video, we looked at the Session Explorer inside PowerShell Pro Tools for Visual Studio Code and the ability to pin sessions to tabs inside Visual Studio Code.